The phone rang at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that started like any other. Jasmine was folding laundry in their bedroom, humming softly to herself, when Marcus's name flashed across her screen. She smiled, thinking he was calling to tell her he'd be late from work again. "Hey baby," she answered, tucking the phone between her ear and shoulder as she continued folding his shirts. "Jasmine." His voice was cold, different. Not the warm tone she'd heard for 12 years of marriage. "I'm divorcing you. And I've already sold the house." The shirt fell from her hands. "What? Marcus, what are you talking about?" His laugh came through the phone like broken glass. "You heard me right. I'm done with this marriage. Done with you. The house sold last week. You have 30 days to get out. But this is our home. We built this together. You can't just." "I can and I did. My lawyer will send the papers." "Oh, and Jasmine? Thanks for making it so easy. All those nights you thought I was working late? I was with someone who actually appreciates me." The line went dead. Jasmine stood there, phone still pressed to her ear, waiting for him to call back and tell her it was some sick joke. The laundry basket sat at her feet, his clothes scattered across the hardwood floor they'd picked out together 3 years ago. The same floor where they'd danced to their wedding song on their anniversary just 2 months before. Her legs gave out. She sank onto their bed, his bed apparently, and stared at the framed photo on the nightstand. Their wedding day. She was radiant in white, he was handsome in his tuxedo, both of them laughing at something his best man had whispered. They looked so happy, so in love, so stupid. The house felt different now. Every corner held a memory that had just been poisoned. The kitchen where they'd cooked Sunday dinners together. The living room where they'd planned their future, talking about kids and growing old together. The backyard where she'd planted roses thinking they'd watch them bloom for decades. All lies. She walked through each room like a ghost, touching walls that no longer belonged to her, looking at furniture she'd helped pick out but apparently had no claim to. How was this possible? How could he sell their house without her signature? How could 12 years mean nothing? Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister Carmen. "Girl, you better call me back. I've been trying to reach you all day." Jasmine's hands shook as she dialed. "Finally. Where have you been? I drove by your house and saw a sold sign. What's going on?" "Marcus is divorcing me. He sold the house. I have 30 days. The words came out flat, emotionless. She felt numb. "What? That man has lost his mind. You get yourself over here right now. We need to figure this out." But Jasmine couldn't move. She sat on the couch they'd bought together for their first apartment, the one she'd insisted on keeping because it held so many memories. Good memories. Real memories. Or were they? How long had he been planning this? How long had he been lying to her face, kissing her goodbye in the mornings, telling her he loved her at night? How long had he been with someone else while she waited up for him, keeping his dinner warm? The front door opened. She heard his keys hit the bowl by the entrance, heard his footsteps on the stairs. Normal sounds. Routine sounds. Like any other day except everything was different now. "Jasmine?" He called out like nothing had happened. She stayed silent. He found her in the living room, still in her work clothes from her job at the community center where she helped kids with their homework. Still holding the phone. Still trying to understand how her life had exploded in a single phone call. "We need to talk," he said, loosening his tie. The same tie she'd bought him for Christmas. "Now you want to talk? After you destroyed our marriage over the phone?" He sat across from her, not beside her like he used to. The distance between them felt like an ocean. "Look, this isn't working. We both know it. We're like roommates, not husband and wife. When's the last time we really talked? Really connected?" "This morning. When you told me you loved me and kissed me goodbye." "That's not what I mean and you know it." She stared at him. This man she'd shared a bed with for 12 years. This man whose dreams she'd supported, whose mother she'd cared for during her illness, whose hand she'd held through every crisis. Who is she? That's not important. Who is she, Marcus? He looked away. "Her name is Tiffany. She works at my office. She gets me. She makes me feel alive again. And I don't. Not for a long time." The words hit her like a slap. She thought about all the times she'd tried to reconnect with him. The romantic dinners he'd been too tired for. The weekend trips he'd canceled for work. The conversations he'd cut short to answer his phone. His phone. That he suddenly guarded like it held nuclear codes. How long? Does it matter? How long, Marcus? 8 months. 8 months. While she'd been planning their anniversary celebration. While she'd been talking to him about maybe trying for a baby again. While she'd been living in a marriage that only existed in her mind. The house. is in my name. My credit bought it. My income qualified for the mortgage. You can't afford it on your teacher's aide salary anyway. The cruelty in his voice was new. Or maybe it had always been there and she'd been too in love to hear it. We're married. I have rights. Check the deed. Check the mortgage papers. Your name isn't on anything that matters. She felt the blood drain from her face. He was right. When they'd bought the house, his credit score was higher. His job was more stable. It made sense for everything to be in his name. She trusted him. They were married. What was his was hers, right? Wrong. You planned this, she whispered. I planned to be happy. Something I haven't been in years. She wanted to scream. To throw something. To ask him how he could sit there and rewrite their entire history. But she just sat there, watching her life crumble while he picked lint off his sleeve like this was just another Tuesday. I'll fight this. With what money? What lawyer? Face it, Jasmine. You've got nothing. No house, no savings account in your name, no credit. I've been carrying you for years. I work. I contribute to this household. Your little part-time job? That barely covers groceries. Everything else, the mortgage, the cars, the insurance, the utilities, that's all me. She realized then how carefully he'd positioned her. How systematically he'd made sure she was dependent on him. The joint accounts that he controlled. The credit cards in his name that she was just an authorized user on. The car that was registered to him. He'd been building a cage around her for years and she'd helped him do it. 30 days, he said, standing up. That's more than generous. Most people would give you 2 weeks. He walked toward the stairs, then stopped. Oh, and Jasmine? Don't try to take anything that isn't clearly yours. I've already documented everything in the house. My lawyer says if you take what belongs to me, it's theft. She sat alone in the living room as the sun set through windows that would soon belong to strangers. 12 years of marriage reduced to 30 days of packing. A lifetime of dreams crumbled in a phone call. But as she sat there in the growing darkness, something began to stir inside her. Not sadness. Not despair. Anger. Pure, clean, burning anger. Marcus thought he was so smart. Thought he'd played this perfectly. Thought she was just going to roll over and disappear quietly. He was wrong. Jasmine barely slept that night. She lay on her side of the bed while Marcus snored peacefully beside her, like he hadn't just blown up their entire life a few hours earlier. How could he sleep? How could he lie there so calm while she felt like her chest was cracking open? At 5 a.m. she gave up trying to rest. She made coffee in the kitchen that would soon belong to someone else and sat at the table where they'd shared thousands of meals. Everything felt different now, like she was seeing her own life through someone else's eyes. Her phone buzzed. Carmen. I know you're awake. I've been up all night thinking about this mess. You need to get over here now. Bring whatever papers you can find. Jasmine looked around the house. Their house. His house. Where would she even start? After Marcus left for work, kissing her cheek like he had every morning for 12 years, the hypocrite, she began searching. She started with his home office, the room she'd rarely entered because it was his space. The desk drawers were locked, but she knew where he kept the key. Behind the family photo on his bookshelf. The same photo where she was smiling like an idiot, believing in their love. Inside the first drawer, financial statements. Bank accounts she didn't know existed. Investment portfolios with her name nowhere to be seen. A second mortgage on the house that she'd never heard about. Her hands shook as she photographed everything with her phone. In the second drawer, legal documents. Consultation notes with a divorce attorney dated 6 months ago. 6 months. While she was planning their anniversary dinner, he was planning their divorce. But it was the third drawer that made her stomach drop. A private investigator's report. About her. Her daily routines. Where she worked. Where she shopped. Her sister's address. Her friends' names. Photos of her taken without her knowledge, getting coffee, leaving work, walking into Carmen's house. He'd had her followed. Like she was some kind of criminal. The report was thorough. Too thorough. It listed her work schedule, her salary, her few assets. Her weaknesses. Her dependence on him. It read like a battle plan. At the bottom, in Marcus's handwriting, subject has no independent financial resources. No legal representation. Minimal support system. Divorce proceedings should be straightforward. Subject. He'd reduced her to a subject. She photographed every page, her anger growing with each click of the camera. Then she found the final folder. Love letters. But not to her. My darling Tiffany, the first one began. I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. Soon I'll be free of her and we can start our real life together. The house sold faster than expected. My lawyer says the divorce will be quick since she has nothing to fight with. By Christmas it'll just be you and me in our new place. Their new place. He'd already found somewhere to live with his girlfriend. She kept reading, each letter making her sicker. He described their marriage as dead weight he needed to shed. Called her clueless and pathetic. Made jokes about how easy it had been to keep her in the dark. The last letter was dated 3 days ago. Baby, I told her today. You should have seen her face. She actually thought she could fight this. My lawyer was right, she's got nothing. No money, no property, no power. This is going to be easier than we thought. Start looking at engagement rings. I want to propose as soon as the divorce is final. Jasmine set the letter down carefully. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. The hurt was still there, but it was buried now under something harder. She photographed everything, then put it all back exactly as she'd found it. Marcus thought he was so clever, but he'd made one mistake. He'd underestimated her. At Carmen's house, her sister paced the kitchen while Jasmine showed her the photos. That lying, cheating, manipulative piece of... Carmen stopped herself. Sorry? I know you loved him. I loved who I thought he was. This man? I don't even know him. Okay, so what's the plan? Because we're not letting him get away with this. Jasmine looked at her sister. Carmen was a paralegal at a downtown law firm. She knew things. Legal things. He thinks I have no money for a lawyer. You don't? Not for a good one anyway. He thinks I have no power. Jasmine, what are you thinking? She pulled up the photos of the bank statements. He's been hiding money. Look at these account numbers. These investment portfolios. If we're legally married and I didn't know about this money, isn't that fraud? Carmen leaned closer. Keep talking. And this private investigator report. He had me followed without my knowledge. Isn't that illegal? In some states, yes. Depends on the circumstances. What about this? She showed Carmen the consultation notes with the divorce lawyer. He was planning this for months while still sharing a bed with me. Still having me sign things. Still making joint decisions about our life. Carmen was quiet for a long moment, studying the documents. Jasmine, this isn't just about divorce. This is about financial fraud. Identity theft. Possibly stalking. If you're right about this, Marcus could be in serious legal trouble. Good. But to prove it, we need more than photos. We need originals. We need bank records. We need documentation that shows a pattern of deception and financial manipulation. How do we get that? Carmen smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Leave that to me. My boss owes me some favors and she hates cheating husbands. But Jasmine, if we do this, there's no going back. This won't just be a divorce. This could destroy him. Jasmine thought about Marcus's laugh on the phone. About him calling her pathetic in letters to his girlfriend. About 12 years of her life being dismissed as dead weight. Good, she said again. That evening she cooked dinner like always. Set the table like always. Waited for Marcus to come home like always. But everything was different now. He walked in at 7:30, same as usual. Kissed her cheek, same as usual. Asked about her day, same as usual. Fine, she said, serving his plate. How was work? Busy. Big project coming up. Might have to work late again tomorrow. She nodded, cutting her chicken. Of course. I understand. They ate in silence like they had so many nights recently. But now she knew why he didn't talk to her anymore. He was saving all his words for Tiffany. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, she said carefully. He looked up, surprised. Yeah. About the divorce. Maybe you're right. Maybe we have grown apart. His relief was visible. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. I want to make this as easy as possible. For both of us. That's great, Jasmine. Really mature. She smiled. I do have some questions though. About the finances. About what I'm entitled to. His expression shifted slightly. My lawyer is handling all that. You don't need to worry about it. But I should understand what's happening, right? I mean, we've been married 12 years. There must be some assets I have a claim to. Like what? Well, your 401k. The investments. Any savings accounts or... Jasmine. His voice was sharp now. I told you. My lawyer is handling this. You don't need to worry about money stuff. That's always been my department. She nodded meekly. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm scared, I guess. About being on my own. His expression softened. Good. He still saw her as helpless. You'll be fine. You're stronger than you think. If only he knew how right he was. After dinner, while he watched TV, she cleaned the kitchen and planned. Carmen was meeting with her boss tomorrow. By the end of the week, they'd know exactly what kind of legal ground they were standing on. Marcus thought he held all the cards. But he'd made one crucial error. He'd assumed she would stay the same person she'd always been. The trusting wife. The dependent partner. The woman who let him handle everything important. But that woman had died yesterday at 3:47 p.m. The woman washing dishes in his kitchen was someone new. Someone angry. Someone with nothing left to lose. And that made her very dangerous. Carmen's boss, attorney Patricia Williams, was a sharp woman in her 50s who'd built her reputation destroying cheating spouses in divorce court. She looked at Jasmine's photos with the intensity of a surgeon examining x-rays. "This is good," she said finally. "Very good. But photos won't hold up in court. We need originals." "How do we get those without him knowing?" Jasmine asked. "Legally, as his wife, you have a right to access marital financial records. The trick is getting them before he knows you're looking." Carmen leaned forward. "What about the private investigator report? That's where this gets interesting. In this state, it's illegal to hire someone to follow your spouse without their knowledge except under very specific circumstances. None of which apply here." Patricia smiled coldly. "Marcus may have just handed us a criminal case along with the divorce." Jasmine felt a flutter of hope. "What does that mean?" "It means your husband could face charges for stalking, harassment, and invasion of privacy. And if we can prove he's been systematically hiding marital assets while planning the divorce, that's financial fraud." The room was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioner. "What do you need from me?" Jasmine asked. "Everything. Every bank statement you can find. Every tax return. Every piece of paper with both your names on it. And I need you to document everything from now on. Every conversation, every text, every interaction." "What about her fee?" Carmen asked quietly. Patricia looked at Jasmine for a long moment. "I'll take this case on contingency. When we win, and we will win, I'll take my fee from what we recover from your husband." "Why would you do that?" "Because I've seen this pattern 1,000 times. Men who think they can throw away their wives like yesterday's newspaper. Men who think women are too weak or too stupid to fight back." Her eyes hardened. "I enjoy proving them wrong." Over the next 3 days, Jasmine became a spy in her own home. While Marcus was at work, she methodically photographed every document in his office. Bank statements going back 5 years. Investment portfolios worth hundreds of thousands of dollars she'd never known existed. Tax returns that showed income streams she'd never heard him mention. The pattern was clear. For the past 3 years, Marcus had been slowly moving money into accounts with only his name, reducing the balances in their joint accounts while building secret wealth elsewhere. But the most damning discovery was in his email. She found his passwords written on a sticky note inside his desk drawer. Apparently, being sneaky didn't extend to cybersecurity. His email told the whole story. Messages to his divorce lawyer detailing strategies to hide assets. Communications with his financial advisor about protecting wealth in the event of marital dissolution. Instructions to his accountant about restructuring his investments. And dozens of emails to Tiffany. The emails painted a picture of a man who'd been planning this divorce like a military campaign. Every move calculated. Every angle covered. Every weakness of hers cataloged and weaponized. In one email to his lawyer he wrote, "She's never paid attention to the finances. Doesn't even know what we have or where it's kept. This should be straightforward." In another, the PI report confirms she has no independent resources and no legal sophistication. She won't know what to fight for. But it was his emails to Tiffany that truly revealed his character. "Can't wait to be done with this charade," he'd written just last month. 12 years of pretending to care about someone who bores me to tears. At least it's almost over. And, she actually thinks we're happy. How pathetic is that? She has no idea what's coming." Jasmine printed everything. Each page felt like evidence of her own stupidity, but also like ammunition for the war ahead. Meanwhile, she played the perfect supportive wife. She cooked his meals, washed his clothes, smiled when he kissed her goodbye. She even asked about his day, letting him lie to her face about working late. "You're handling this so well," he told her one evening. "I really respect how mature you're being about everything." "I just want what's best for both of us," she replied, serving him dessert. The same dessert she'd been making for their anniversary every year. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Tiffany said you seemed like a reasonable person." "I'm glad she was right." Jasmine's hand tightened on the serving spoon. "You told her about me?" "Well, yeah. She was worried about how you'd take the news. She's a very caring person." "Caring. The woman who'd been sleeping with someone else's husband for 8 months was Karen. "I'd like to meet her sometime," Jasmine said casually. "Maybe it would help, you know? Make this whole process less awkward." Marcus looked uncomfortable. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not? If we're all going to be civilized about this. Maybe later. After things are more settled." She nodded but made a mental note. He was protecting Tiffany. Which meant Tiffany didn't know everything about what Marcus was doing. That night, while Marcus slept beside her, Jasmine stared at the ceiling and planned. Patricia Williams was building a case that would not only secure her affair settlement but potentially put Marcus in legal jeopardy. The evidence was overwhelming. But Jasmine wanted more than just money. She wanted Marcus to feel what she'd felt when he'd called her that Tuesday afternoon. The shock. The betrayal. The complete upending of everything she thought was real. She wanted him to know what it felt like to lose everything in a single moment. The next morning, Marcus left for work with a spring in his step. He was probably thinking about how easy this was all going. How perfectly his plan was working. Jasmine waited until his car was out of sight, then made a phone call. "Patricia? It's Jasmine. I have everything you need. When do we file? How fast can you get down here? I'm leaving now." As she drove to Patricia's office, Jasmine thought about the woman she'd been a week ago. That woman had trusted completely. Had believed in love and marriage and partnership. Had built her entire identity around being Marcus's wife. That woman was gone. The woman driving toward downtown was harder, smarter, angrier. And she was about to show Marcus just how wrong he'd been about her. The papers were filed that afternoon. By law, Marcus had to be served within 24 hours. Jasmine chose to have him served at work. At his office. In front of Tiffany. Some revenge, she was learning, was best served publicly. Jasmine chose her outfit carefully that Thursday morning. A black dress that Marcus had always said looked good on her. The pearls he'd given her for their 10th anniversary. Her wedding ring polished to catch the light. She looked like the perfect wife. Which made what was about to happen even more satisfying. Marcus left for work at his usual time, kissing her cheek and telling her he'd be late again. "Big presentation today," he said. "Might not be home until after 9. "Good luck, honey," she replied, straightening his tie. "I know you'll do great." He smiled, probably thinking about how easy his life was about to become. No more pretending. No more lies. Just him and Tiffany and all the money he'd stolen. At 10:30 a.m., Jasmine called Patricia's office. "Send the process server now." Marcus worked for a mid-sized accounting firm downtown. Their office was on the 15th floor of a glass tower, all open concept and modern furniture. Jasmine had been to a few company parties there over the years. She knew the layout. She also knew that Tiffany worked in marketing, 3 cubicles down from the break room. At 11:15, Jasmine positioned herself across the street in a coffee shop with a clear view of the building's lobby. At 11:30 she saw the process server enter. A professional-looking woman in a suit, carrying a manila envelope. Her phone rang 20 minutes later. "Mrs. Patterson? This is Patricia Williams. The papers have been served." How did he take it? According to our server, and I quote, "not well." Apparently, he went very pale and started asking a lot of questions very loudly. In front of his entire office. Jasmine smiled. "And the criminal complaint?" "Filed this morning. The district attorney is very interested in the stalking charges. Apparently, they've been building cases against private investigators who operate outside the law. What happens now? Now we wait for him to call his lawyer. Which should happen in about 5 minutes. It took 3. Jasmine was still at the coffee shop when her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "We need to talk. Now." She finished her latte slowly, then drove home. Marcus's car was already in the driveway. She could hear him pacing in his office, talking rapidly on the phone. "What do you mean criminal charges?" His voice carried through the house. "It's a divorce, not a federal case." She sat in the living room and waited. 20 minutes later, he found her there, reading a magazine like nothing had happened. "What the hell is this?" He waved the legal papers at her. "Divorce papers. I thought you'd be happy. Isn't this what you wanted?" "Not like this. What's all this stuff about hidden assets and fraud?" She looked up from her magazine. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Jasmine, don't play dumb with me. These papers claim I've been hiding money and violating your privacy." "Have you?" "That's not the point." "Actually, Marcus, that's exactly the point." He stared at her. She could see the wheels turning in his head, trying to figure out how his helpless, clueless wife had managed to hire a lawyer and build a case against him. Where did you get the money for Patricia Williams? Do you know what she charges? She's working on contingency. Contingency? What does that mean? It means she only gets paid when we win. When we prove you've been stealing from me. His face went white. Stealing? We're married. You can't steal from your own wife. You can if you hide assets during divorce proceedings. You can if you systematically move marital property into accounts she can't access. You can if you lie about income and investments while planning to leave her with nothing. How do you know about? He stopped himself. About what, Marcus? About the bank accounts I didn't know existed? About the investments made with money I thought we were saving together? About the private investigator you hired to follow me like some kind of criminal? He sat down heavily in his chair. You went through my things. I exercised my legal right to access marital financial records. You had no right. I had every right. We're still married, remember? Until the divorce is final, what's yours is mine. That's how marriage works. She could see him trying to calculate damage control. Trying to figure out what she knew and what she could prove. Look, maybe we got off on the wrong foot here. We can work this out without lawyers. Like you worked out selling our house without telling me? I was going to tell you. When? After you'd moved in with Tiffany? His face went ashen. How do you know about Tiffany? Oh, Marcus. I know everything. She pulled out her phone and opened the photos she'd taken of his love letters. Started reading, My darling Tiffany, I can't wait until we don't have to hide anymore. Soon I'll be free of her. Stop. And we can start our real life together. The house sold faster than expected. Stop it. By Christmas, it'll just be you and me in our new place. He lunged for her phone, but she was ready for him. She stood up, stepping back. Don't worry, I have copies. Lots of copies. In fact, my lawyer has copies. The prosecutor has copies. I'm thinking of making a scrapbook. You vindictive. Careful, Marcus. Choose your words wisely. Everything you say from now on can be used against you in court. He looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You're not the woman I married. No, I'm not. The woman you married trusted you. Believed in you. Thought you were a good man who would never lie to her or steal from her or betray her. She smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. That woman was an idiot. What do you want? Justice. What does that mean? It means you're going to give me half of everything. The real everything. Not just the scraps you were planning to leave me with. Fine. We can negotiate. It means you're going to face criminal charges for stalking and fraud. Criminal charges? For hiring a private investigator? For having your wife followed without her knowledge? For systematically hiding marital assets? For financial fraud? She counted on her fingers. Oh, and perjury if you lie under oath about any of it. He was quiet for a long moment. How long have you known? Does it matter? How long, Jasmine? Since Tuesday. Since you called me at 3:47 p.m. and laughed while you destroyed our marriage. You've been planning this for 5 days? I've been building a case for 5 days. Just like you've been building yours for 6 months. He stood up, started pacing again. This is insane. We can work this out. We don't need lawyers and courts and... Marcus. Something in her voice made him stop. You called me pathetic. In your emails to her, you called me pathetic. You said I was too stupid to fight back. You said I had nothing. He couldn't meet her eyes. You were wrong. Her phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Criminal complaint filed. Warrant issued. They'll arrest him tomorrow morning. Jasmine looked at Marcus, this man she'd loved for 12 years, this stranger who'd stolen her life and laughed about it. Pack a bag, she said quietly. What? Pack a bag. You're not sleeping here tonight. This is my house. Actually, it's a marital asset that's now frozen pending litigation. And I have a restraining order. She pulled out another set of papers. You need to stay at least 500 feet away from me. A restraining order? On what grounds? Stalking. Having me followed. Invasion of privacy. Oh, and the judge was very interested in your emails about getting me out of your house. Marcus read the papers, his face growing paler with each line. Where am I supposed to go? I hear Tiffany has a nice place. He looked at her one more time, like he was hoping to see some trace of the old Jasmine. The forgiving one. The understanding one. She looked back with cold eyes. 30 minutes, she said. Then I call the police. As he went upstairs to pack, Jasmine sat in their living room and felt something she hadn't felt in days. The war was just beginning, but she'd won the first battle. And Marcus was finally starting to understand what he was really up against. Marcus was arrested at 7:30 a.m. on Friday morning. Not at home, he'd spent the night at some hotel, since Tiffany apparently wasn't ready for sleepovers, but at his office in front of all his co-workers. Carmen called Jasmine with the news. "Girl, you should have seen the video. Someone posted it on social media. Him in handcuffs being walked out in front of everyone." "How did someone get video?" "Apparently, one of his co-workers has been suspicious about him for months. Thinks he's been billing personal expenses to company accounts. When she saw him getting arrested, she started filming." Jasmine felt a small thrill of satisfaction. Marcus had always been so proud of his professional reputation. Always talking about his standing at the firm, his relationships with clients, his future prospects. All of that was gone now. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. This is Tiffany Rodriguez. I think we need to talk." Jasmine's grip tightened on the phone. The other woman. The one Marcus had chosen over 12 years of marriage. "I don't think we have anything to discuss. Please. I know you probably hate me, but there are things you need to know. Things Marcus hasn't told you." "Such as?" "Can we meet? Somewhere public. I have information." Jasmine's first instinct was to hang up. But something in Tiffany's voice stopped her. She sounded scared. "Why would you want to help me?" "Because I think we've both been played." They met at a diner downtown, far from Marcus's office and their usual haunts. Tiffany was younger than Jasmine had expected, maybe 28, with long black hair and nervous eyes. Pretty but in a tired way. "Thank you for coming," Tiffany said, sliding into the booth across from Jasmine. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Talk," Jasmine said simply. "I didn't know he was married when we first started seeing each other." "For 8 months you didn't know?" Tiffany's face flushed. "No, I found out after 3 months. But by then." She trailed off. "By then you were in love with him." "I thought I was." "He told me you two were separated. That you were just living together until he could afford to move out. He said you both wanted the divorce but were trying to do it quietly." Jasmine studied the woman across from her. She wanted to hate her, but mostly she felt tired. "When did you find out the truth?" "Yesterday. When he got arrested." Tiffany's voice broke slightly. "I went to the police station to see what was happening. The detective told me about the charges. About the private investigator following you. About the financial fraud. And? Marcus never told me he hired someone to spy on you. He never told me he was stealing money or hiding assets. I thought he was just a man who'd fallen out of love with his wife." Tiffany reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. "After I left the police station, I went through everything Marcus had ever given me. Every document, every piece of paper. I found these." She slid the folder across the table. Inside were financial statements, property deeds, and bank account information. "He's been using me," Tiffany said quietly. "The apartment I thought he was renting for us? It's in my name. The credit cards he said were for our future together? They're in my name. The car he bought me last month? The loan is in my name." Jasmine looked through the papers. The pattern was clear. Marcus had been building a financial house of cards using Tiffany's credit and identity. How much debt? Almost $200,000. Credit cards, loans, the apartment lease. All stuff he said he would take care of after the divorce. He was never going to take care of it. He was setting you up to take the fall for his spending. Tiffany nodded, tears starting to fall. "I figured that out yesterday. He wasn't leaving you for me. He was using both of us." Jasmine felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. They'd both been victims of the same man. "There's more," Tiffany said. "The detective asked me about other women. Apparently, Marcus has been doing this for years." "What do you mean?" "Having affairs. Using women to hide money or take on debt." The detective said they found evidence of at least 3 other relationships over the past 5 years. The air left Jasmine's lungs. Not just Tiffany. Not just 8 months of lying. Years of betrayal. Names? Rebecca Chin, 2019. Angela Murphy, 2021. Sarah Williams, 2023. Tiffany read from a piece of paper. All of them filed complaints about financial fraud. All of them said Marcus convinced them to take on debt in their names, then disappeared when they demanded answers. Jasmine sat back in the booth. The man she'd been married to for 12 years was a predator. A systematic, calculating predator who used women for money and entertainment. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I owe you that much. And because..." Tiffany hesitated. "Because I need your help." "My help?" The detective said if I cooperate with the prosecution, they might be able to help me with the debt Marcus ran up in my name. But they need more evidence. More witnesses. What kind of evidence? The other women won't testify. They're too embarrassed or scared. But you have everything. The emails, the financial records, the proof of his pattern of behavior. Jasmine looked at this young woman who'd unknowingly helped destroy her marriage, and felt an unexpected surge of sympathy. Tiffany hadn't been the villain in this story. She'd been another victim. What do you want me to do? Testify about everything. Not just the divorce case but the criminal case. Help them prove Marcus has been doing this systematically. Why should I help you? Tiffany met her eyes. Because if we don't stop him, he'll do it to someone else. And because. She pulled out her phone and showed Jasmine a text message. It was from Marcus, sent that morning. Don't talk to anyone about anything. This will all blow over if we stick together. Meet me tonight and we'll figure out how to fix this. He still thinks he can manipulate you, Jasmine said. He thinks he can manipulate both of us. Use us against each other while he figures out his next move. Jasmine thought about the years of lies. The systematic financial abuse. The other women who'd been hurt and humiliated. I'll testify, she said. Tiffany sagged with relief. Thank you. But I have conditions. Anything. You cooperate fully with the prosecutor. You turn over every document, every text, every piece of evidence you have. Done. And you stay away from Marcus. No matter what he promises, no matter how much he begs. He's toxic, Tiffany. He'll destroy you completely if you let him. I know that now. They sat in silence for a moment, two women who'd been played by the same master manipulator. Can I ask you something? Tiffany said. What? How did you know? How did you figure out what he was really doing? Jasmine thought about that Tuesday afternoon phone call. About the shock and pain that had eventually crystallized into cold anger. He got careless. He thought I was too stupid and weak to fight back. He underestimated what a person will do when they have nothing left to lose. Are you going to be okay? Financially, I mean. I will be. My lawyer thinks we can recover most of the hidden assets. Plus damages for fraud. She smiled grimly. Marcus is going to lose everything. His job, his reputation, his freedom. And every penny he stole. Good, Tiffany said fiercely. He deserves worse. As they left the diner, Tiffany touched Jasmine's arm. I know this doesn't make up for anything, but I am sorry. About your marriage. About being part of what he did to you. Jasmine looked at her for a long moment. You didn't know. He fooled both of us. Still. Tiffany? Don't let this make you afraid to trust people. What Marcus did, that's not normal. Most people aren't like him. How do you know that? How do you trust anyone after this? Jasmine thought about Carmen, who dropped everything to help her. About Patricia Williams, who'd taken her case on contingency. About the detective who'd treated her with dignity and respect. Because good people exist too. You just have to learn to tell the difference. That evening, alone in the house that would soon legally be hers, Jasmine made a list of everything she needed to do. Testify in the criminal case. Finalize the divorce. Start over completely. It should have felt overwhelming. Instead, it felt like freedom. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This isn't over. You're making a mistake. Marcus. Still trying to intimidate her even from jail. She forwarded the message to Patricia and the detective, then blocked the number. Some lessons, apparently, Marcus was going to have to learn the hard way. The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Linda Chin, was a small woman with sharp eyes and the reputation of a shark. She sat across from Jasmine in a sterile conference room, surrounded by files and legal pads. Your husband is more interesting than we initially thought, she said, opening a thick folder. After Ms. Rodriguez came forward, we started digging deeper. What we found is extensive. How extensive? Marcus Patterson has been running financial scams for at least 7 years. We've identified 12 women, not counting you and Ms. Rodriguez. All of them were manipulated into taking on debt or giving him access to their finances. Jasmine felt sick. 12 women. What kind of scams? Investment opportunities that didn't exist. Fake business ventures. Emergency situations where he needed to borrow money quickly. Classic confidence schemes but sophisticated. He targeted women who were financially stable but emotionally vulnerable. Linda Chin pulled out a chart showing connections between names, dates, and dollar amounts. Rebecca Chin, he convinced her to co-sign a loan for a business venture. $50,000. The business never existed. Angela Murphy, he talked her into investing in a real estate deal. $75,000. The property was never purchased. Sarah Williams, emergency surgery for his sick mother. $30,000. His mother died 5 years ago. Each name represented a woman who'd been betrayed and financially devastated. How much money total? Close to $1 million over 7 years. Plus the assets he's hidden from you. We're looking at a substantial financial crime operation. And he did all this while married to me? While married to you, while maintaining long-term relationships with some of these women, while presenting himself as a successful businessman. Linda's voice was cold. Your husband is a sociopath, Mrs. Patterson. A very intelligent, very dangerous sociopath. Jasmine thought about all the nights Marcus had come home late. All the business trips. All the times he'd been too stressed to talk about work. What happens now? We're building a comprehensive case. Fraud, identity theft, stalking, money laundering. He's looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison. Federal? Wire fraud, mail fraud, bank fraud, all federal crimes. The FBI is involved now. As if summoned by the mention, a tall man in a suit knocked and entered the room. Mrs. Patterson? I'm Agent David Park, FBI Financial Crimes Unit. I need to ask you some questions about your husband's business activities. For the next 3 hours, Jasmine answered questions about Marcus's work habits, travel schedule, income sources, and spending patterns. The agents were particularly interested in his home office and computer. We'll need to search your house, Agent Park said. With your permission, of course. Do I have a choice? You can make us get a warrant, but it would be easier if you cooperated. Then yes. Search everything. Take whatever you need. Linda Chin leaned forward. There's something else. We think Marcus may have been planning to disappear. What do you mean? False documents. New identity papers. We found evidence that he's been working with people who specialize in helping criminals start over in other countries. Jasmine's blood ran cold. He was going to abandon me and just vanish? With all the money he could steal, yes. If you hadn't acted when you did, you might have woken up one morning to find him gone forever. The room was quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Mrs. Patterson, Agent Park said gently, we need you to understand how dangerous your husband is. He's not just a cheating spouse. He's a career criminal who's been using your marriage as cover for extensive criminal activity. What do you need from me? Everything. Financial records, communications, anything that might help us trace his activities or locate hidden assets. And the other women? The victims? Some are cooperating. Others are too frightened or embarrassed. Your testimony could be crucial in helping them get justice too. Jasmine thought about Tiffany, barely 28 and facing bankruptcy because of Marcus's lies. About Rebecca and Angela and Sarah and all the others. I'll do whatever you need. Agent Park smiled. Good. Because we're going to make sure Marcus Patterson never hurts another woman. That afternoon, FBI agents swarmed through the house Jasmine had shared with Marcus for 5 years. They carried out computers, files, and boxes of documents. They photographed everything, cataloged everything, treated her home like a crime scene. Because that's what it was. Carmen found her sitting on the front steps, watching agents load evidence into unmarked vans. How are you holding up? I lived with a monster for 12 years and never knew it. He fooled everyone, not just you. Did he? Or was I just so desperate to believe in happy endings that I ignored all the signs? Carmen sat beside her. What signs? You said yourself he was a good actor. Jasmine thought about it. The way he always handled all the money. Never let me see the real financial picture. The mysterious phone calls he said were work. The business trips that seemed to have no clear purpose. Lots of husbands are private about money. Lots of people travel for work. But the way he talked about other people. Like they were stupid or weak. Like everyone was there for him to use. She shook her head. I thought it was just confidence. Success mindset. I never saw it as contempt. Because you're not a sociopath. You can't think like one. Agent Park approached them. Mrs. Patterson? We found something you should see. He led them into Marcus's office, where agents had dismantled his computer setup. Hidden partition on his hard drive, Agent Park explained. Encrypted files with detailed information about all his victims. On the computer screen was a spreadsheet with names, photos, financial information, and personal details about dozens of women. Jasmine's information was there. Her social security number, bank account details, work schedule, even psychological notes. Trusting. Avoids conflict. Responds well to guilt manipulation. But she wasn't the only one. Screen after screen of women, catalogued like inventory. He was hunting, she whispered. Systematically. He researched potential victims, planned his approaches, tracked what worked and what didn't. Carmen pointed at the screen. Look at the dates. He was working on multiple women at the same time. While married to you, he was simultaneously running cons on 4 or 5 other women. This wasn't just adultery, Mrs. Patterson. This was organized crime. Jasmine stared at her own photo on the screen. Taken without her knowledge, probably by the same private investigator Marcus had hired to follow her. Beside her photo, in Marcus's handwriting, long-term asset. Maximum potential extraction. $500,000 to $750,000. Timeline, 2 to 3 years. She wasn't his wife. She was a target with an extraction timeline. Are you okay? Agent Park asked. Jasmine looked around the office where Marcus had planned the destruction of so many lives. Where he'd calculated exactly how much money he could steal from her before discarding her. No, she said. But I will be. What can we do to help? She turned to face him, and Agent Park was surprised by the cold determination in her eyes. Catch them all. Every person who helped him. Every crime he committed. Every dollar he stole. I want Marcus Patterson to pay for every single thing he's done. That's exactly what we intend to do. As the FBI packed up their evidence and prepared to leave, Jasmine walked through her house one more time. Every room felt different now. Contaminated by the knowledge of what Marcus really was. But also liberated. For 12 years she'd been living a lie without knowing it. Now finally she could start living the truth. Her phone rang. Patricia Williams. Jasmine? The FBI contacted me. They want to coordinate our civil case with their criminal investigation. What does that mean? It means we're not just going after what Marcus owes you. We're going after everything he has, everything he's stolen, everything he's hidden. When we're done, Marcus Patterson won't have enough money left to buy a cup of coffee. Good. There's more. The FBI thinks they can help us locate assets Marcus has hidden overseas. Accounts in the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, offshore shell companies. He's been planning this for years. Jasmine sat down in her living room, surrounded by the remnants of her old life. How much are we talking about? Conservatively? $3 to $4 million. Maybe more. $4 million. While she'd been worrying about grocery money and clipping coupons, Marcus had been accumulating millions through fraud and theft. Patricia? Yes. I want to do something with that money. Something good. What do you have in mind? Jasmine looked at the FBI evidence tags still scattered around the room, each one representing another woman who'd been victimized. I want to help them. All of them. The women Marcus hurt. That's a beautiful idea, Jasmine. Can we do that? Legally? We can absolutely do that. For the first time since that Tuesday afternoon phone call, Jasmine smiled. Marcus had spent years destroying women's lives for money. She was going to use his money to rebuild them. The federal courthouse was an imposing building of granite and glass, designed to intimidate. Jasmine walked up the steps in her best suit, flanked by Patricia Williams and Agent Park. Cameras flashed as reporters shouted questions about the Black Widow financial fraud case, as the media had dubbed it. How does it feel to testify against your husband? Did you know about his criminal activities? Are you seeking revenge? Patricia shielded her from the microphones. No comments until after the testimony. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Jasmine saw some of Marcus's other victims in the gallery, Rebecca Chin, Angela Murphy, Sarah Williams, and several women she didn't recognize. Tiffany sat in the front row, looking nervous but determined. Marcus sat at the defense table in an expensive suit his lawyer had probably bought him. He looked thinner than she remembered, older. Prison had not been kind to him. When their eyes met across the courtroom, he tried to smile. The same charming smile that had won her heart 12 years ago. Now it just looked pathetic. The prosecution calls Jasmine Patterson to the stand. Walking to the witness box felt like crossing an ocean. Every step took her further from the woman she'd been and closer to the woman she was becoming. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Prosecutor Linda Chin approached the witness stand with a warm smile. Mrs. Patterson, how long were you married to the defendant? 12 years. During that time, did you believe you had a happy marriage? Yes. I thought we were building a life together. When did you first learn that your husband was having an affair? On Tuesday, March 15th at 3:47 p.m. He called me and told me he was divorcing me and had already sold our house. How did that make you feel? Shocked. Betrayed. Like my entire life had been a lie. Linda Chen walked her through the discovery of the hidden bank accounts, the private investigator reports, the love letters to Tiffany. With each piece of evidence, Jasmine watched Marcus's face grow paler. Mrs. Patterson, I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 47. Do you recognize this document? It was the spreadsheet from Marcus's computer. The one with her photo and the notation about maximum potential extraction. Yes. This is a file from my husband's computer that showed information about me and other women. What did you think when you first saw this? Jasmine looked directly at Marcus. I realized I hadn't been his wife. I'd been his victim. The defense attorney, a sharp woman in her 50s, tried to discredit Jasmine during cross-examination. Isn't it true, Mrs. Patterson, that you went through your husband's private papers without his permission? Yes. You violated his privacy? I exercised my legal right as his spouse to access marital financial records. You were angry about the divorce? I was angry about being lied to and stolen from. Angry enough to fabricate evidence? Patricia Williams stood up. Objection. The evidence has been authenticated by FBI forensics experts. Sustained. The defense attorney tried a different approach. Mrs. Patterson, isn't it true that you've profited significantly from these allegations against your husband? In what way? You're seeking millions of dollars in the civil case. I'm seeking return of money that was stolen from me. Money you claim was stolen. Jasmine felt her anger rising but kept her voice calm. Money that federal investigators have traced through bank records and financial documents. Money that Marcus hid in offshore accounts while telling me we couldn't afford a vacation. You seem very composed for someone whose life has been supposedly destroyed. I've had time to process what happened to me. Or time to plan your revenge? Jasmine looked at the defense attorney, then at Marcus, then at the women in the gallery who'd traveled here to see justice done. This isn't revenge, she said clearly. This is accountability. The prosecution's case took 3 days. Victim after victim testified about how Marcus had manipulated them, stolen from them, destroyed their financial lives. The FBI presented evidence of systematic fraud going back 7 years. The defense tried to paint Marcus as a man who'd made mistakes in his personal life but wasn't a criminal. They argued that the relationships were consensual, that any financial arrangements were misunderstandings. It didn't work. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. On the charge of wire fraud, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of mail fraud, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of identity theft, how do you find? Guilty. Guilty on all 23 counts. Marcus's face crumpled as the verdicts were read. His lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, but he shrugged it off, looking around the courtroom like he couldn't believe this was happening to him. When his eyes found Jasmine's, she saw something she'd never seen before. Fear. Judge Martinez set sentencing for 6 weeks later, but indicated that Marcus would likely receive close to the maximum sentence of 25 years. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed again. How do you feel about the verdict, Mrs. Patterson? Jasmine looked into the cameras, thinking about all the women who'd been hurt, all the lives that had been damaged. I feel like justice has been served, she said. Not just for me but for every woman Marcus Patterson victimized. What's next for you? Rebuilding. Healing. Making sure this never happens to anyone else. That evening, Patricia Williams called with news about the civil case. We've located most of the hidden assets. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, the property he bought under fake names. Total recovery looks like it'll be around $6 million. $6 million. More than Jasmine had ever imagined. After legal fees and taxes, you're looking at about $4 million. And the other victims? The federal restitution will help them, but it won't make them whole. Marcus spent most of what he stole from them. Then we use my settlement to help them. Jasmine, that's very generous, but it's not generosity. It's justice. Marcus stole from all of us. The money should go back to all of us. You could keep it. Start over. Build whatever life you want. Jasmine thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago. Trusting, dependent, living in a carefully constructed lie. The life I want is one where women like us don't get destroyed by men like Marcus. Where victims become survivors and survivors help other victims. What are you thinking? A foundation. Legal aid for women going through financial abuse. Support services. Education about the warning signs. Her voice grew stronger. Marcus thought he could throw me away like garbage. Instead, he's going to fund the thing that stops men like him. Patricia was quiet for a moment. You know what? Let's do it. That night, alone in her house, truly her house now, Jasmine sat in the living room and thought about the future. For 12 years she'd let Marcus define her life, make her decisions, control her destiny. Never again. She picked up her laptop and began typing. The Patterson Foundation for Financial Justice. Mission statement: to provide legal assistance, financial support, and educational resources to women victimized by financial abuse and fraud. It felt good to be building something instead of just surviving the destruction of her old life. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tiffany: "Thank you for everything. The testimony, the support, helping me see who he really was. I'm going back to school to become a victim's advocate. Maybe I can help other women avoid what we went through." Jasmine smiled and typed back, "That's exactly what the world needs." Another text, this one from Carmen: "Proud of you, sis. You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into something beautiful." Jasmine looked around the house that had once been her prison and was now her launching pad. Marcus had tried to destroy her, but instead he'd just revealed what she was truly capable of. Tomorrow she would start building the foundation. Next week she would help the first woman who needed legal aid. Next month she would speak at conferences about financial abuse. Next year she would have helped dozens of women rebuild their lives. Marcus Patterson had created a monster, all right, just not the one he'd intended. 6 months after Marcus's conviction, Jasmine stood in the lobby of a downtown office building, looking up at the directory. Patterson Foundation for Financial Justice, Suite 1205, was listed in neat black letters. Her foundation. Her mission. Her new life. The office wasn't large, just 3 rooms and a reception area, but it was bustling with activity. Carmen had left her paralegal job to become the foundation's legal coordinator. Tiffany, true to her word, had finished a crash course in victim advocacy and now ran their support services. "Mrs. Patterson?" A young woman approached hesitantly. "I'm Maria Santos. I called yesterday about needing help." Jasmine smiled warmly. "Of course. Let's talk in my office." Maria's story was depressingly familiar. A charming boyfriend who'd convinced her to co-sign loans, open credit cards in her name, invest in fake business ventures. By the time she realized what was happening, she was facing bankruptcy and he'd disappeared. "I feel so stupid," Maria said, tears in her eyes. "Everyone says I should have known better." "You're not stupid," Jasmine said firmly. "You're the victim of a crime. These men are professionals. They know exactly how to manipulate people. Can you really help me? We can try. Carmen will review your case and see what legal options you have. Tiffany will connect you with financial counseling and emotional support. And if we can't fix everything, we'll at least make sure you're not facing this alone." After Maria left, Jasmine walked through the office, checking on the other cases they were handling. A single mother whose ex-husband had destroyed her credit. An elderly woman whose nephew had stolen her retirement savings. A college student whose boyfriend had run up thousands in debt using her identity. 12 active cases with more calls coming in every day. Patricia Williams stopped by around lunchtime. "How's business?" "Busier than I expected. I thought we'd help maybe 1 or 2 women a month. We're seeing 1 or 2 a day." "That's not surprising. Financial abuse is more common than people realize. Most victims just don't know there's help available." They walked to the conference room, where Tiffany was leading a support group for women dealing with financial fraud. "The important thing to remember," Tiffany was saying, "is that this wasn't your fault. These criminals are experts at manipulation. They study us, they know exactly what to say to gain our trust." One of the women in the group raised her hand. "But how do we trust anyone again? How do we know we won't fall for the same tricks?" "By learning the warning signs," Jasmine said, joining the conversation. "By understanding the tactics they use. By building financial independence so we're not vulnerable." She'd become an expert on financial predators over the past year. The foundation's educational materials were being used by domestic violence shelters and women's organizations across the state. "Red flags to watch for," she continued. "Someone who wants to move very fast in the relationship. Someone who wants to handle all the financial decisions. Someone who discourages you from talking to friends or family about money matters." "What about someone who says they want to protect you from financial stress?" asked another woman. "That's a big one. Protection that turns into isolation is a warning sign. A healthy partner wants you to understand your financial situation, not be shielded from it." After the group session, Jasmine returned to her office to find Agent Park waiting. "Agent Park, what brings you here?" "Good news. We've broken up a network of financial predators operating across 3 states. Your ex-husband's case was the key that unlocked everything. He spread photos across her desk. Men and women of various ages, all connected by lines and dates. Marcus wasn't working alone. He was part of an organized group that shared information about potential victims, techniques that worked, ways to hide money. Jasmine studied the photos. How many victims? Over 200 women, maybe more. We're still investigating. 200. Your foundation is going to be very busy. These women are going to need legal help, financial counseling, emotional support. Jasmine looked at the scale of the damage. Hundreds of women whose lives had been shattered by systematic fraud. We'll help them all, she said. With what resources? You're already stretched thin. She smiled. Then we'll grow. That evening, Jasmine worked late preparing grant applications. The foundation needed more funding, more staff, more office space. The work was expanding faster than she'd ever imagined. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Jasmine? It's Rebecca Chin. From the trial. Rebecca had been one of Marcus's earlier victims, the woman who'd lost $50,000 to his fake business venture. Rebecca, hi. How are you doing? Better, thanks to your foundation. The legal aid you provided helped me recover some of my money. But I'm calling about something else. What can I do for you? I want to help. With the foundation. I'm a CPA, and I have experience with financial fraud cases. I want to volunteer. Rebecca, that's wonderful, but I need to do this, Jasmine. For me and for all the other women who've been hurt. I want to turn what happened to me into something positive. By the end of the week, Jasmine had received similar calls from Angela Murphy and Sarah Williams. All of Marcus's victims wanted to join the fight against financial predators. At the staff meeting Friday morning, Jasmine announced the news. We're expanding. Rebecca Chin is joining as our financial forensics specialist. Angela Murphy wants to handle our education and prevention programs. Sarah Williams is a web designer who's offered to revamp our online resources. Carmen grinned. Marcus is probably rolling over in his prison cell. Good, Tiffany said fiercely. He tried to destroy all of us. Instead, he created an army of women who know exactly how these predators operate. Jasmine looked around the conference room at her team. 6 months ago, they'd all been victims. Now they were advocates, educators, and warriors for financial justice. There's something else, she said. I've been invited to speak at the National Conference on Economic Abuse next month. They want me to present our model as a template for other cities. That's amazing, Carmen said. It means we might be able to replicate this nationwide. Patterson foundations in every major city, all working together to stop financial predators. What would Marcus say if he could see this? Tiffany wondered. Jasmine thought about her ex-husband, sitting in federal prison, probably still unable to believe that his pathetic, helpless wife had built something this significant. He'd say we're delusional. That we can't possibly make a difference. That men like him will always find women like us to victimize. And what would you say back? Jasmine smiled, looking at the wall where they'd hung thank you letters from women they'd helped. Photos of support group graduates who'd rebuilt their lives. News articles about financial predators they'd helped put in prison. I'd say he was wrong about everything. Including us. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maria Santos, the young woman who'd come in for help that morning. Just wanted to say thank you. For the first time in months, I feel like maybe I can get through this. That's why they did this work. Not for revenge against Marcus, not even for justice. For hope. For the radical idea that victims could become survivors, and survivors could become heroes. Marcus had tried to make them weak. Instead, he'd made them unstoppable. 1 year after Marcus's conviction, Jasmine received an unexpected call from the federal prison where he was serving his sentence. Mrs. Patterson? This is Warden Collins at FCI Petersburg. Your ex-husband has requested a meeting with you. Jasmine set down her coffee. A meeting? He's filed a request for victim mediation. It's a program where inmates can apologize to their victims as part of their rehabilitation. You're under no obligation to participate. What would this involve? A supervised meeting in our mediation room. He would have a chance to speak, you would have a chance to respond. It's meant to provide closure for both parties. Jasmine thought about it. She hadn't seen Marcus since the trial, hadn't thought about him much at all. She'd been too busy building the foundation, helping other women, creating something positive from the wreckage of their marriage. I need to think about it. Of course. If you decide to participate, just call me back. That evening, Jasmine discussed it with Carmen and Tiffany over dinner. Why would you want to see him? Carmen asked. I'm not sure I do. But maybe there's something I need to say to him. Something I need to hear. What could he possibly say that would matter now? Tiffany asked. Maybe nothing. Or maybe I need to see what he's become. To know that this chapter of my life is really closed. You don't owe him anything, Carmen said firmly. I know. This wouldn't be for him. It would be for me. 2 weeks later, Jasmine drove to the federal prison in Petersburg. The facility was a sprawling complex of concrete and razor wire, surrounded by guard towers and security cameras. She went through multiple checkpoints, metal detectors, and background checks before being escorted to the mediation room. It was a small, sterile space with a table for chairs and a large window where a corrections officer could observe. Marcus was already seated when she entered, wearing an orange jumpsuit that made his skin look sallow. He looked older. Much older. His hair was graying, his face lined with stress. Prison had aged him a decade in just 1 year. Jasmine. He stood up when she entered, then sat back down when the guard gestured for him to remain seated. Marcus. They looked at each other across the small table. The last time they'd been in the same room, he'd been confident, arrogant, certain he could manipulate his way out of trouble. Now he looked broken. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure either. He fidgeted with his hands, avoiding her eyes. I've been thinking a lot. About what I did. About how I hurt you. Have you? The counselor here, she says I need to take responsibility. To understand the impact of my actions. Jasmine waited. He'd asked for this meeting. Let him do the talking. I know I destroyed our marriage. I know I lied to you, stole from you, betrayed you in every way possible. Yes, you did. I told myself it wasn't personal. That it was just business. That you'd be better off without me anyway. Better off without you stealing from me? Yes, I am. He flinched. I deserve that. You deserve a lot worse than that. They sat in silence for a moment. Marcus seemed to be struggling to find words. I heard about your foundation, he said finally. Did you? Some of the other inmates, they have wives, girlfriends who've heard about it. They say you're helping a lot of women. We are. That's good. I'm glad something positive came out of all this. Jasmine studied his face. Was this genuine remorse or just another manipulation? With Marcus it was always hard to tell. Why did you ask me here, Marcus? Because I need you to know that I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because my lawyer told me to be, not because it might help my case. I'm sorry because I destroyed the life of someone who loved me, and I can't live with that anymore. You lived with it for 12 years. No, I lived in denial for 12 years. I told myself you were happy, that our marriage was working, that the lies didn't matter because you didn't know about them. And now I know I was destroying you little by little, every day. Making you dependent on me so I could control you. Stealing your confidence, your independence, your sense of self-worth. Jasmine felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness, exactly, but a recognition that this broken man in front of her was finally telling the truth. The other women, she said. Tiffany, Rebecca, Angela, Sarah. All of them. I know. I used them all. Hurt them all. Some of them have written to me. What did they say? That they hope I rot in hell. His voice cracked slightly. I don't blame them. Do you? Hope you rot in hell? He looked up at her and she saw tears in his eyes. I think I'm already there. They sat quietly for several minutes. Outside the window she could see other inmates in the yard, walking in circles or sitting on benches. Men who'd made terrible choices and were paying the price. I need you to know something, Marcus said suddenly. What? I never stopped loving you. Jasmine felt a flash of anger. Don't you dare. I know that sounds impossible. I know you don't believe me. But it's true. Even while I was betraying you, stealing from you, planning to leave you with nothing, part of me still loved you. That's not love, Marcus. That's possession. You're right. I didn't know the difference. I thought love meant owning someone, controlling them, making them need you. And now you know better? Now I know I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too selfish and too sick to appreciate what I had. Jasmine looked at this man who'd been her husband for 12 years. Who'd shared her bed, her dreams, her life. Who'd systematically destroyed everything they'd built together. I don't forgive you, she said quietly. He nodded. I don't expect you to. I don't feel sorry for you. I don't want you to. And I don't love you anymore. This seemed to hurt him more than anything else she'd said. I know. But I'm not angry anymore either. He looked up, surprised. For a long time I was furious. At you, at myself, at the whole situation. The anger kept me going, kept me fighting for justice. But at some point I realized that staying angry was just giving you more power over my life. So what do you feel now? Jasmine thought about it. Nothing. You're just a stranger who used to be married to someone I used to be. Someone you used to be? The woman you married doesn't exist anymore. She died the day you called and told me you were divorcing me. The woman sitting here now is someone completely different. Marcus was quiet for a long time, absorbing this. Are you happy? He asked finally. The new you? Happier than I've ever been. Even though your marriage failed? Even though you had to start over with nothing? Jasmine smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. I didn't start over with nothing, Marcus. I started over with $4 million of your money and a deep understanding of exactly who I am and what I'm capable of. His face went pale. 4 million. The foundation has helped over 300 women recover stolen money, escape financial abuse, and rebuild their lives. We have offices in 12 cities now. We've lobbied for new laws protecting victims of financial fraud. We've put 17 men like you in prison. She leaned forward slightly. You thought you were discarding me like garbage. Instead, you funded the organization that's going to make sure men like you can't destroy women's lives anymore. Marcus stared at her, apparently speechless. Every woman we help, every predator we catch, every life we rebuild, that's all happening with money you stole. Your victims became your downfall. Your crimes became our resources. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just sit there and think about the fact that every day for the rest of your life, the money you thought you were stealing from weak, helpless women is being used to make sure other weak, helpless women become strong enough to fight back. She stood up. That's irony, Marcus. That's justice. And that's the last conversation we'll ever have. As she walked toward the door, he called after her. Jasmine? She stopped but didn't turn around. I'm proud of you. Now she did turn, looking at him one last time. I don't care. The drive home from the prison felt like emerging from a dark tunnel into sunlight. Jasmine rolled down the windows and turned up the radio, singing along to songs she hadn't heard in years. That evening she met Carmen and Tiffany for dinner at their favorite restaurant. How was it? Carmen asked. Exactly what I needed it to be. Which was? Confirmation that I don't need him, don't want him, and don't miss him. He's not the love of my life who made terrible mistakes. He's just a criminal who happened to be married to me. Tiffany raised her wine glass. To putting the past where it belongs. To building a future worth having, Carmen added. To women who refuse to stay victims, Jasmine finished. They clinked glasses and drank to new beginnings, to second chances, to the radical idea that the worst thing that ever happened to you could become the foundation for the best thing you ever accomplished. Later that night, alone in her apartment, she'd sold the house and bought a modern condo downtown, closer to the foundation offices. Jasmine looked through the photo albums from her marriage. She'd kept them not out of nostalgia but as reminders. Evidence of how completely someone could fool you. How thoroughly you could fool yourself. In every photo she looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy. Because she had been in her ignorance. But looking at those photos now, she didn't feel sad for the woman she'd been. She felt grateful to her. That trusting, naive woman had paid a terrible price for her innocence. But her suffering had created something beautiful. Her pain had become other women's protection. Marcus had tried to erase her from existence. Instead, he'd helped her become exactly who she was meant to be. 5 years after that first devastating phone call, Jasmine stood on a stage at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., accepting the National Humanitarian Award for her work with the Patterson Foundation. The auditorium was filled with advocates, survivors, lawmakers, and journalists. In the front row sat the women who'd helped build the foundation. Carmen, Tiffany, Rebecca, Angela, Sarah, and dozens of others who'd turned their pain into purpose. When my ex-husband called me 5 years ago to tell me he was divorcing me and had sold our house without my knowledge, Jasmine began, he thought he was destroying my life. He thought he was throwing me away like garbage, taking everything I had and leaving me with nothing. The audience was completely silent. He was wrong. He wasn't destroying my life. He was creating it. Applause rippled through the auditorium. The Patterson Foundation has now helped over 15,000 women recover from financial abuse. We've assisted in the prosecution of over 200 financial predators. We've recovered more than $50 million in stolen assets. We operate in 47 cities across the United States. The applause grew louder. But numbers don't tell the real story. The real story is Maria, who rebuilt her credit and started her own business. It's Jennifer, who escaped an abusive marriage and now helps other women do the same. It's Lisa, who discovered her husband's fraud and instead of being destroyed by it, became a financial crimes investigator. Jasmine looked out at the audience, seeing faces of women she'd helped, women who'd helped her, women who were carrying the mission forward. 5 years ago I was a victim. Today I'm surrounded by an army of survivors who refuse to let anyone else suffer what we suffered. We've taken our worst experiences and turned them into other women's salvation. She paused, thinking about Marcus in his prison cell, probably watching this on the news. To the predators who think they can destroy women's lives for profit, you're wrong. Every woman you hurt becomes stronger. Every crime you commit gives us more evidence to use against you. Every dollar you steal becomes funding for the organizations that will catch you. The standing ovation lasted for 5 minutes. Afterward, at the reception, Jasmine was approached by a young woman she didn't recognize. "Mrs. Patterson? I'm Jessica Miller. I'm starting law school in the fall and I wanted to thank you." "Thank me for what?" "My mom was one of your first clients. She'd been financially abused by my stepfather for years. Your foundation helped her get divorced, recover her money, and start over. She's doing great now, but more importantly, watching her fight back taught me that I never have to let anyone control me." Jasmine smiled. "What kind of law do you want to practice?" "Financial crimes prosecution. I want to put men like my stepfather in prison. The world needs more lawyers like you. The world needs more women like you. You turned the worst thing that ever happened to you into the best thing that ever happened to thousands of other women." Later that evening, back in her hotel room, Jasmine video called the foundation staff for their weekly meeting. "How are things at home?" she asked. Carmen's face filled the screen. "Busy as always. We've got 12 new cases this week, including a class action suit against a romance scam operation that targeted elderly women." "What about the legislation?" Tiffany appeared on screen. "The Financial Abuse Prevention Act passed committee. It should go to a full vote next month." "Rebecca, how are the numbers looking?" Rebecca Chin, now the foundation's CFO, pulled up a spreadsheet. "We're on track to help 20,000 women this year. Recovery amounts are up 30% from last year." "And the new offices?" "Seattle opens next month," Angela Murphy reported from their expansion team. "Portland and Denver are scheduled for the fall." Jasmine looked at these women who'd started as victims and become leaders. "Any word on our favorite inmate?" "Marcus was denied parole again," Carmen said with satisfaction. "Earliest possible release is now 2038. 14 more years," Tiffany mused. "Think he's learned his lesson?" "I don't care if he has," Jasmine said. "By the time he gets out, we'll have helped so many women that men like him will be obsolete." After the call ended, Jasmine walked to the hotel window and looked out at the Capitol building, lit up against the night sky. Tomorrow, she would meet with senators about federal legislation to combat financial abuse. Next week, she would keynote a conference for prosecutors. Next month, she would open the foundation's 50th office. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Patterson, you don't know me, but your foundation helped my sister last year. She says you saved her life. I just wanted to say thank you." Messages like that came every day now. Women reaching out to express gratitude, to share their stories, to offer help with the mission. 5 years ago, Marcus had called her pathetic and helpless. He'd been so confident that she would quietly disappear, broken and defeated. Instead, she'd become the most powerful advocate for financial abuse victims in the country. She'd built an organization that had helped tens of thousands of women. She'd changed laws, influenced policy, and created a movement. Marcus had tried to make her nothing. She'd become everything. Her phone rang. "Carmen. Did you see the news?" "What news?" Channel 7 just ran a story about a financial predator in Miami who was caught because one of his victims recognized the signs from our educational materials. He's been arrested and they found evidence of at least 50 other victims. That's wonderful. Jasmine, do you realize what this means? We're not just helping individual women anymore. We're changing the entire landscape. Women are getting educated, getting suspicious, getting smart. These predators are losing their advantage. Jasmine smiled, thinking about the ripple effects of their work. Every woman they helped became someone who could recognize the warning signs. Every educational program they ran created more awareness. Every predator they caught meant dozens of future victims who would be spared. We're not just building a foundation, she realized. We're building a movement. And it all started because Marcus Patterson thought he could throw you away like garbage. Jasmine laughed, and it was genuine, joyful laughter. The best revenge isn't getting even, she said. It's becoming so successful that your enemies become irrelevant. Speaking of irrelevant, I have a surprise for you. What kind of surprise? Check your email. The documentary about the foundation just got picked up by Netflix. It's going to reach millions of women. Jasmine opened her laptop and saw the contract. A major documentary about financial abuse, featuring the Patterson Foundation's work, would be distributed to Netflix's global audience. Millions of women would learn about financial predators and how to protect themselves. Millions more would know that help was available if they needed it. Marcus is really going to hate this, Carmen said. Good, Jasmine replied. Let him hate it from his prison cell for the next 14 years. As she prepared for bed that night, Jasmine thought about the woman she'd been 5 years ago. Trusting, dependent, living a lie without knowing it. That woman's pain had created something beautiful. Her betrayal had become other women's protection. Her worst day had led to thousands of women's best days. Marcus had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd helped her save the world. At least, the world of women who refused to be victims. And that, Jasmine realized as she drifted off to sleep, was the very best kind of revenge. 10 years after Marcus Patterson's conviction, Jasmine Patterson Williams, she'd taken Patricia's last name when they'd become partners in expanding the foundation, stood before Congress to testify about the Financial Abuse Prevention Act, which had become known as Jasmine's Law. The Patterson Foundation now operated in all 50 states and 12 countries. They'd helped over 100,000 women, recovered over $2 billion in stolen assets, and contributed to the prosecution of over 1,000 financial predators. Marcus Patterson was serving year 15 of his 25-year sentence. His name had become synonymous with financial abuse in law enforcement circles. The Patterson method was taught in criminal justice courses as an example of systematic victim exploitation. But Jasmine rarely thought about him anymore. She was too busy changing the world. In her testimony that day, she said something that would be quoted in textbooks for years to come. 10 years ago, a man tried to destroy my life because he thought I was weak. Today, I'm here to tell you that there is no force more powerful than a woman who has been underestimated, betrayed, and written off, and who decides to fight back. We don't just survive. We thrive. And we make sure no one else has to suffer what we suffered. The bill passed unanimously. Justice, it turned out, was the sweetest revenge of all.